slave in ancient Rome had his leg deliberately broken by his own master. He didn't cry, he didn't beg for mercy, he simply looked up and calmly said, "You're going to break it." And when the bone finally snapped, he whispered, "Didn't I tell you?" This crippled slave became freer than every emperor who ever lived. His name was Epictetus, born into slavery, beaten, broken, owned like property. And yet what he discovered inside those chains, freedom, truth, power, became the most powerful guide to human liberation ever written. A Roman emperor would carry his words into battle. Millions across 2,000 years would find strength in his teachings. And today, we are unlocking his slave's guide to a freedom that no one, no emperor, no tyrant, no circumstance can ever take away from you. Born into chains. Imagine being born with a price tag on your life, not a metaphor, a literal price. Around 50 AD, in the dusty city of Hierapolis, a boy was born into slavery. No name that history remembers his mother by, no father to protect him, just a number in a ledger and a master to obey. He was property before he was a person. His name, Epictetus, comes from the Greek word Epictetos, meaning acquired. He was literally named the purchased one. Purchased. He was brought to Rome and became the slave of Epictetus, a powerful freedman who served Emperor Nero himself. Think about that irony. Epictetus lived in the shadow of absolute power while having none of his own. Slave power, none. He couldn't choose where to sleep, he couldn't choose what to eat, he couldn't choose whether to live or die. Every breath belonged to someone else. And yet, in this cage of total powerlessness, he found the key to something his masters never had. But how? What could a slave possibly discover that emperors couldn't? That's exactly what we're about to find out. The broken leg. There's a story about Epictetus that has survived nearly 2,000 years, and it reveals everything about this extraordinary man. One day, his master Epictetus, in a fit of cruelty, began twisting Epictetus's leg, slowly, deliberately. Epictetus did not scream or beg for mercy. Instead, he looked at his master with perfect calm and said, "You're going to break it." The bone cracked. Snap. And without a trace of anger, without a single tear, Epictetus simply said, "There, did I not tell you that you would break it?" This wasn't bravery, this wasn't madness. This was something far more dangerous. Calm power, freedom. His master could break his body, but could never touch his mind. The leg healed badly. He walked with a limp for the rest of his life, but that limp became the symbol of an extraordinary realization. The body can be chained, but the mind is always free. This revelation became the foundation of everything he taught. But what exactly did he teach? And why does it still matter 2,000 years later? What you control. Here is the single most important idea Epictetus ever had. And it might be the most important idea anyone has ever had about how to live. He divided the entire world into two categories. 1, things within your control. 2, things outside your control. Your opinions, your desires, your reactions, your choices, these are yours. Everything else belongs to the universe, not to you. The whether other people's opinions, whether someone loves you back, none of that is up to you. Control, release, peace. And here's where it gets radical. Epictetus said that all human suffering, every single drop of it, comes from confusing these two categories. You suffer because you're trying to control what was never yours to control. You are fighting a war you were never meant to win. If this ancient slave's wisdom is resonating with you right now, hit like and subscribe to unlock more treasures from this vault. Because what comes next might change how you see your entire life, as Epictetus himself taught. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. Your boss didn't ruin your day, your judgment about your boss did. And when you master this distinction, you unlock something even more powerful. Inner fortress. Epictetus took the dichotomy of control and built something extraordinary from it. What philosophers would later call the inner fortress. A citadel of the mind that no army can invade. Think of your mind as a castle. Most people leave the gates wide open. They let every insult walk right in, every rejection, every failure, every cruel word someone throws at them. They hand the keys to their peace to complete strangers. Epictetus called this insanity. Why would you give a stranger the power to destroy your inner peace? No man is free who is not master of himself. This is not about suppressing emotions. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about recognizing that between every event and your reaction to it, there is a space. Event, space, reaction. And in that space lies your freedom. A man who was beaten, broken, and owned by another human being grasped something about the mind that most free people never will. You can lock a man in prison. You can take everything he owns. But you cannot force him to think a single thought he doesn't choose. And this leads us to something even more counterintuitive. Chains of desire. Here's a paradox that will keep you awake tonight. Epictetus said the freest person is not the one who gets everything they want. Never. The freest person is the one who wants only what they already have. Desire is the invisible chain that enslaves the free. Think about it, no one owns you. No master controls your body. And yet you're enslaved by wanting a bigger house, more followers, more money, more approval. Epictetus watched Roman senators, generals, even emperors drowning in luxury yet consumed by anxiety. They had everything and it was never enough. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. As a slave, he owned nothing, and he realized this was his greatest advantage, because when you have nothing to lose, lose freedom. You have nothing to fear. The rich man trembles because he might lose his fortune. The powerful man trembles because he might lose his position. But the man who desires nothing, he is untouchable. And this leads us to one of his most practical and most challenging teachings. Play your role. Epictetus had a beautiful metaphor for life. He said we are all actors in a play we didn't write. Remember that you are an actor in a drama of such a kind as the author pleases to make it. You didn't choose your role. Maybe you were born poor. Maybe you were born with a disability. Maybe you lost someone you loved. You don't get to pick the script. But you always get to choose how well you play your part. This is not passive acceptance. This is the most active form of courage there is. Courage, action, purpose. Epictetus was given the role of a crippled slave, and he played it so brilliantly that his performance echoes across 2,000 years. He didn't waste energy wishing he was an emperor. He took what life gave him and turned it into something immortal. How much energy do you waste wishing things were different? Every moment spent wishing is a moment stolen from becoming. Stop auditioning for someone else's role. Play yours, play it with everything you have. But how do you actually do that when life hits you at your weakest? That's where his next teaching becomes essential. Gift of pain. Most people run from pain. They numb it with distractions, addictions, endless scrolling, anything to avoid feeling uncomfortable. Epictetus had a radically different approach. He treated every hardship as training sent by the universe. He compared life to an athletic competition. You wouldn't curse the weights at the gym for being heavy. You wouldn't complain that training is difficult, because the difficulty is the point. Pain, growth, strength. As he taught his students, difficulties are things that show a person what they are. That rejection you faced, training, that failure that crushed you, training, that betrayal. Training. He didn't just tolerate suffering, he welcomed it, because comfort makes you soft, ease makes you fragile, but adversity forges something unbreakable inside you. He proved it with his own life. Slavery didn't destroy him. A broken leg didn't stop him. Exile from Rome didn't silence him. Every blow became fuel for wisdom. The obstacle became the way long before anyone wrote a book about it. And he captured all of this in one extraordinary document that would outlast Rome itself. The Handbook. After gaining his freedom, Epictetus did something remarkable. He opened a school of philosophy in Greece, and his devoted student Arian wrote down every lesson in a document called the Enchiridion, a tiny handbook containing the entire blueprint for human freedom. The word Enchiridion means ready at hand, not a thick academic tome, not a complex philosophical treatise, a practical, portable guide to living well. Handbook Freedom Life. And it opens with perhaps the most powerful first line in all of philosophy. Some things are within our power, while others are not. From this single principle, he built an entire system for navigating loss, anger, fear, desire, and death. 1. Control only what is yours. 2. Accept what is not. 3. Judge nothing by first appearance. 4. Examine yourself daily. Soldiers carried this handbook into battle. Prisoners memorized it in captivity. James Stockdale, a Navy pilot shot down over Vietnam, survived 7 years of torture by living these teachings. A slave's words kept a warrior alive 2,000 years later. And there was one particular reader of Epictetus whose story will astonish you. Emperor's student. A century after Epictetus died, a young Roman boy was being groomed to rule the most powerful empire on earth. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and the book that shaped his soul. The teachings of a crippled former slave named Epictetus. Think about the irony. The most powerful man in the world learned how to live from the most powerless. Marcus Aurelius quoted Epictetus throughout his private journal, the Meditations, notes he wrote to himself during military campaigns and moments of crisis. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. That is pure Epictetus. The slave's fingerprints are everywhere in the emperor's philosophy. Slave-emperor connected. Marcus ruled for nearly 20 years. He faced plague, war, betrayal, and the death of his own children. Through it all, he returned to the same principles a lame slave had taught from a modest school in Greece. The most powerful emperor found strength in the words of the most powerless man. And this brings us to the deepest question Epictetus spent his entire life answering. What does it truly mean to be free? True freedom. Epictetus was eventually freed from slavery. He opened his school, taught for decades, and lived simply until his death around 135 AD. But here is what makes his story truly extraordinary. He was free long before anyone removed his chains. Freedom is not a circumstance. It is not a legal status. It is not something anyone can give you or take away. Freedom, mind eternal. Freedom is a state of mind, and Epictetus proved it in the most extreme way imaginable. A slave with a broken leg and no possessions was freer than an emperor surrounded by gold. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Today, no one owns your body, but ask yourself honestly, are you really free? Free from the need for approval, free from the tyranny of other people's opinions, free from the endless chase for things that will never fulfill you. Free. Epictetus would look at most modern people and see slaves, not bound by iron chains, but by their own desires, their own fears, their own refusal to master themselves. True freedom is not the absence of chains, but the mastery of the self. 2,000 years ago, a slave with a broken leg and nothing to his name discovered the most radical truth about human existence. Freedom is not something you find outside yourself. It doesn't live in your bank account. It doesn't live in your job title. It doesn't live in anyone else's approval. Freedom lives in the space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. In the darkest corner of the ancient world, Epictetus built an inner kingdom that no emperor could conquer. Ancient wisdom eternal. His message is devastatingly simple. Stop trying to control what isn't yours. Master what is, and you will be freer than you ever imagined possible. If you made it this far, comment Inner Citadel to prove you have claimed your own fortress of freedom. The wisdom of the ages is yours. Use it well. If this unlocked something in you, subscribe for more. The vault has more wisdom waiting.